What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Be More. I'm excited because it's been a little while since I've done these, maybe 3 weeks or so, but I'm back now. That's what matters. And I'm not back by myself. I always love to have conversations with the incomparable Shawana Kennedy, and we'll meet her again after this.
Close the doors, walk across the corridor. We got something to show you. Media is our repertoire.
Okay, let me stop playing. Why don't we just go to Shawana because we know that she's already here. Shawana, are you somewhere around in the studio?
Hello. Hey, Dr. Tachi. What's up? I'm excited because we always have a good time together. So what are we talking about today?
Oh, we're talking about a few things, madame. So actually, let's start off with how much is too much on social media? You know, social media is pervasive. We can't get away from using it, especially if you have a business. Most people who have businesses are using social media. But then there are lots of people who are using social to cement themselves personally, I guess, which would be your personal brand. But sometimes I see things that like, well, gee, we didn't need to know that. That's a lot of information, TMI. So I wanted us to talk about how much is too much on social media, especially when it comes to now, how is this related to video and live streaming? It is because most content that you see on social media is going to be visual. Much of it is going to be video. Some of it will be live streaming. So it really does connect. So how much is too much to share in a video, Shawana, in your opinion?
Oh, when I think about that, I think about if it actually costs you your peace, your privacy, and your power, you might be doing a little bit too much, because I understand the importance of being seen, being heard, being known and paid for your brilliance, because we know that is one of the things that I do promote for my business. However, again, if it is crossing the lines with your peace, your privacy, and your power of your even the healing, and it's showing up as a distraction rather than it healing or attention seeking, then that's when I believe you are doing too much.
So what do you mean by distraction? Do you mean you getting distracted or other people getting distracted? Can you flush that out a little bit more?
I sure can, because here's the thing, and it could be both, honestly, because for yourself, one, if you're oversharing, I'll be clear and transparent right now.
Okay.
For those who know and they follow me, recently, a few weeks ago, we celebrated the life of one of my amazing, beautiful sisters. She transitioned from breast cancer. And when I think about sharing, even me being online, talking about being seen, being heard, being known for what it is that you do, it's like, would people that suffer a loss by a loved one, would they use that online to get pity, right? Versus using it to show that, because I am a woman of faith, I lean into it saying, every now and then it's okay to show a little bit of that vulnerability, because of what I do in helping others to increase and to build their confidence. Is showing, because I am, again, a woman of faith, that we don't grieve or mourn like others who don't believe in a higher power or have a relationship with their creator. And it is because of our belief that I do believe that I will see her again. It's because of the relationship that I know she still will live on. Her memory will live on, not only with me, but with our family. So when you can use those things as fuel versus looking for pity, and especially if you're a business owner, it's like, how is that helping your business to grow? It's one thing to have people to care and to lean in, but I don't want your pity. I want you to see that, yes, we are human beings and we deal with things. However, we can still use that as fuel. It's like, even right now, when I say it literally just happened a few weeks ago, it literally just happened a few weeks ago. And me and my sister, we were very close. I talked to her all the time. Being there in those final moments, those final days, you know, it's only in the strength that I'm actually talking to you right now without being in a ball of tears. And it's because of knowing that she always supported me and I can stand in her strength and in her power that actually is lifting me up while I'm talking to you today, because everybody can't do this. So if it's going to cost you your peace, it's costing you too much, because we could stop right there. If this was a sermon, we'll say, go ahead and raise the offering, because if it's the peace and then your power that you can give to other people to help them be more, right? What Dr. Tachi talks about, be more. It's about being more of what it is that you have been called and equipped to do. So don't sit in a corner. If it's costing you too much, you may need to continue to mourn or to grieve in silence. So that's one of the things when I talk about that, because right now I'm using that, her transitioning, as fuel to say, you know what? I then need to be better at even storytelling. What story are you telling? Is it costing you that? Now, can that be a part of my testimony? So if someone says, I've suffered what feels like a loss, versus someone transitioning on because she's no longer in pain, right? So we can celebrate in that, and I can help someone else to talk and walk through that. So it's like, what are we doing if it's costing us too much? Yes, be vulnerable, but without it being a distraction. Is it for attention? What does that cost really look like? So you have to really count up the cost in all of this. Yeah.
Wow. Well, first of all, let me again offer up my sincere condolences and a big hug for you. I know that this is a very tough and vulnerable time for you. And I appreciate you actually saying, no, I still want to come on, because I'm like, I didn't expect you to want to do any of these things. So the fact that you actually wanted to do this, thank you. And
it's a need. I need to do this. If
right.
I'm being, frank and honest, I know I need to do this, because sometimes when I say a distraction too, it's kind of like, I mentioned about even hurting my arm since I've been back home. And because it was on my dominant side, I could use that as an excuse. Now I'm grieving, I'm mourning, and I've hurt my arm. Just close the door, close the curtains, and put me in a corner. No, but when we know that we're called for more, we have got to not move beyond, but push through some of those things. There is victory on the other side when we push a little bit harder. And I have to. I don't have a choice in this. I don't.
And the interesting thing about this is, through sharing, you feel like you are not alone, right? Because there are all sorts of people who have said, well, I've been through the same thing. Thank you for sharing this. You're giving me permission to be okay with it. So in a sharing, there's good and bad, right? So in a sharing, it's very therapeutic for us, but it also can be therapeutic for others, so just as long as people know you are not a therapist, that's the thing, where they're not leaning on you for healing, because that's not what social media is for. Even if you are a therapist, they're not your patients, right? So there's that line there. But I think it can be very healing in some sort of way to see other people that are going through something that you may have gone through, and you're open with sharing it. And so thank you for that. I want to talk about this when we talk about how much is too much. The good and bad of sharing, that's like the subtitle, the good and bad of sharing your story online or sharing yourself online. So there is a social media account that I came upon that I had come across it before on Instagram, and it was dealing with mental health, right? And I don't remember the name of the clip of the movie he shared, but it's a clip of a movie where the character she was going through extreme, I think, bipolar disorder and depression. And she talked about it they were in a booth at a restaurant, and they were talking about it. And the person who posted it said, I feel seen. So I didn't think anything about it, because there are many people who go through mental health crises and have mental health issues. But he came up again on my feed. I guess, algorithm, when you see something and you interact, it comes up again. But this time, the entire amount, the post that came up made me go to his account. And oh boy. So this account is an individual, a wonderful person, but he's been through such trauma in his life that it makes him want to unalive himself. And he physically moved to Amsterdam so he could be medically assisted in this. And so his account is called the Last Supper Project, where he's having these different Last Suppers with people, anybody who wants to have supper with him, like around Europe, basically. I think I'm not sure if he's come to the US, but it's been mostly around Europe. Now, it's very interesting, but it's also, my first thing was like, no, you're beautiful, you can do, but I'm not saying these things because the thing is, you don't know how to act. But this person has shared this, and this is a heavy load for a viewer to take on, right? It's a heavier load for him. I'm not saying that what I'm experiencing by him telling me this is even one modicum of what he's experiencing, but it's a lot to take on. And I could not look away because now I know this. So now I have to have feelings about this where it's like, no, you can, pull through. But then I'm looking at some of the comments and there are a whole bunch of other people that feel exactly the same way. And it's through this, they've had these same similar extreme traumas with like assault and from childhood. And it's just like, wow. And you feel like, is there something I can do to, you know what I mean? So in that case, in your opinion, how much is too much? Is that too much to share?
And that's why everybody have their own path. And as you were speaking, a couple of things began to come to the surface for me. Yes, it's nice to be seen and to be heard when you're going through. Also, I have to watch when I see stuff like that, because when you're your person, not it being spooky and ooky, but if you're like an intuitive, and if you're a person that actually pick up on things, we really do have to watch what we allow. We talk about our gates, right? We have our ear gates, our eye gates, all of the gates. And it's about those things that we allow in. And when you were speaking, Dr. Tachi, and talking about once you saw it, you can't unsee it. So for some of us, some of that exposure can be too much exposure that then unravels and open up things that we ourselves are not ready to deal with. So for that's where the prayer comes in, and to know when to cut it off, when to unplug, when to disconnect, because for you as the individual, as the onlooker, it can be too much. So that's why we have to know thyself and watch what it is that we're looking at, listening to, and all of the things. Because if you're a person that picks up on someone else's energy, right? Because it's transferable. It don't go away. Energy is transferable, even if it's through a screen. That's why we all about video, right? Because you can feel a person, you can hear what's on their mind, you can feel what's in their heart. And like you said, it makes you want to, the human in us want to help, especially if that is one of our love languages, is to help someone. So that's why we have to know who we are in which stage of our life. So when we are exposed to certain things, we can then say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to pray for them, but I can't get involved. Matter of fact, I may need to unfollow, hide that post, because it can then take you down a place that you're not ready to travel, or a place that you've already been down and you've already done your work for that. And you don't need that as a distraction from the course or the path that you're now currently on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, again, that's an account that is not for everybody, especially if you've been through your own trauma. If you are grappling with such feelings, it could be something that could trigger something. For me, listen, I've been very blessed that I haven't really had there was a guy, one of my friends, when I lived in DC, that said, you have Brady Bunch problems. And I said, and that's exactly the way I like it. My Brady Bunch over at the end of the half-hour problems. But I know there are so many people that don't have like basically for the most part a problem-free life. So, me looking at that, I'm more so wanting to, what can I do to help, right?
Yeah,
And
because
not
somebody
knowing
can
what to
say
do
a
to help.
simple word, and when you think about the military, or if anybody ever gone through anything, even therapy, certain words, especially hypnotherapy, certain words could be a trigger. Somebody could say trees, and you like, what just happened to them? So just to see something, and they'll be like, where did this come from? What happened? And this could be stuff that happened 10, 20 years ago. And you're
Right.
like, why am I having these feelings? Because they don't go away. They just find other compartments within us. Hence, hello, why some of us may be a little bit overweight, because it's like, what is it that we're not processing or haven't processed? And something that we see or hear can trigger us, and we're off the rafters. We're unhinged. We're unhinged because of TMI, because somebody shared too much and you so happen to run across that in your feed. So we do have to have things that are safety measures for us in the event that we are triggered.
So most social media platforms have ways to, first of all, curating your feed, watching those things. Because sometimes things come up and you're like, you can always say, I want to see less of these types of things.
Yes.
Block those types of things, block those accounts. Also put in words that you don't want to appear when you're watching something, a video or such on social. So those things are not shown to you. So there are measures put in place so that you can do that to protect your person, right? When it comes to that, people that may be, in your opinion anyway, sharing too much. But then when it comes to us and sharing, you already very eloquently said, you're protecting your peace, you're protecting your privacy. And what was the other one?
Your power, baby.
Power. Yeah, one of the most important things. Yes. So you're protecting all of those things. But I think here's the thing. When it comes to, if you know it's something that's going to help, that's great. I think this is also what you have to be careful of. When you're sharing something and that's all you become known for, sharing these, whether it's traumatic, whether it's TMI, whatever the case may be, because it gets likes and views, right? Because it gets engagement. And then you become the trauma king or the trauma queen. Yes, queen. You become that person that's only always posting about too much information. We talked about this before. I think we brought this up. Didn't we bring up that influencer? What was it? Was it here I brought it up? I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm trying to think, because we talk about so much where it can.
We talk about so much stuff.
It can still go into this because of that. Here is the thing: based off what it is that you're branding for yourself, we do that. That's where that could be a thin line, right? If someone watching you and following your story, and they see that something's happening in your life and you're choosing to share because you want people to follow you along your journey, but then you have to watch that attention, that unwanted attention, right? There's one thing where people sending you love, virtual hugs and all of the things, but then you can you could get flooded with inboxes of questions and things that have you in a tailspin, because it's that unwanted attention because you have shared too much. So you have to count. I said about the cost. You have to count up the cost. What does that look like? Because that's good, bad, and ugly when sometimes you give too much information.
So to that point, so this particular influencer is somebody that I watch on YouTube periodically, and she shares a lot. Every relationship that she's had, we've known, which is also why we've known the past 2 relationships have ended badly with infidelity on the beau's part. And then, we're forming opinions. I'm looking right at the person, and I'm like, this person is not for her. Yeah, truly judging, being Judge Judy, like, simply because, but again, this particular individual, she's got a lot of money now, but she comes from kind of like an upbringing that was a little shaky. There was roughness that was around. And so she's never seen an example of what healthy relationships, and from what she's saying and what I see, what healthy relationships looks like. And so she continues to select people based on the feel-good nature of right then, not looking at, and this person is a bum. This person is a straight bum. Of course they were going to do X, Y, Z. Of course they did this. And this last time, it got to this point where it escalated to the person he was cheating with coming to the bowling alley they were at. There was like a fight, not her, but they were tussling and rumble in the jungle, scramble for Africa. There was all of that. And she finally said, I'm going to stop sharing. I said, this is exactly what I've been waiting for you to come to. After how many donkey years does it take for you to do that? But the whole thing is, I'm not trying to measure somebody with my own ruler. What I would do is not what somebody else would do. And people have to learn lessons in their own time. And this doesn't mean that she still learned. Maybe it will be a while and the next time she'll have somebody there. But it's how much is too much? Because now, not only was this out on her because she's a popular influencer, there were TikToks and other influencers talking about, such and such. So now you've become news amongst the influencer brigade. And that's true, purely what she did not want. But she's really honest. She's really open. And I think that's what her community appreciates about her. But you have to be careful of guarding what is too much, because all of that we learned was not really anybody's business. Mm-hmm. But I think what we've seen now is that in this Risa Tisa age of sharing, where people, and guess what? I appreciate her sharing because that was therapeutic for her. But we learned a lot there. And maybe she's okay with that. But if you're not okay with us knowing the ins and outs of things, then you probably shouldn't share as much. Thoughts?
Listening and what you were saying too brings another thought, because sometimes us oversharing can often be unprocessed pain dressed up as transparency.
Say that again.
Yeah, sometimes us oversharing is really often our unprocessed pain dressed up as us being transparent. And that means because it is a process. I told you, I'm being honest today. I am still processing when people ask, how you doing? How are the family doing? We're honestly still processing. And that's why you do have to be mindful. You do have to be present with yourself to say, should I be clicking record and able today? Should I be allowing them to follow me in the day in the life of today? Because if you're working on healing or just even processing, sometimes it's not just about healing, it's just about processing what has happened, right? And so in the name of transparency, in the name of being authentic, sometimes we can overshare.
Wow. Well, this is interesting because who would have expected it to come in this conversation to go down the road of the therapeutic road? But I hope it does give some insight to people, and people are thinking about how much am I sharing? Is it necessary to share so much? And that's for you as a creator. Does me sharing this truly help someone? Or am I, as you said, looking for pity? Or am I looking for likes and views and engagement? So when you share things like this, and I'm not saying that likes and views and engagement and pity cannot be a side effect of this, but I don't think that should be the main thing you're going for. If you're sharing something, you're sharing your story, you feel comfortable with the transparency, and it's because you want to release it from yourself and then help other people. So I that's just my opinion, but I think that we can also look at it from the point of view of a viewer and a consumer of media content on social media. Curate your feed so that you're not exposed to the TMIs, the things you don't want to be exposed to, because there's a lot of stuff out there that is just going to be a distraction, right? As we said, and you could go down that rabbit hole of nothingness and it will do nothing for you. So be wary of that, or be aware of that. And so I'm going to, Shawana, ask you if you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience, and go ahead and tell the audience how they can reach you.
Well, thank you once again, Dr. Tati, for allowing me to be here with you. Again, I am Shawana Kennedy. I am the director of Kennedy Media, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs just like you be seen, heard, paid, and known for their brilliance, and by way of video visibility. That's why this conversation, I definitely wanted to be a part of it today. And when we bring in our stories, because that's part of what this is, it's our testimony, it's our story. And when you're okay to be a better storyteller, a lot of the times we are able to use things that have happened with ourselves in our life, right? That's why I can be bold and brave enough with respect of my family to say what it is that I am currently feeling and how that looks for me, to be able to still use that even in my times of, yes, I can be honest and say, thinking about that, me grieving, have I cried almost every day since it happened? Yes, I actually have. But then I also have to then take that and turn that into something more positive, even though I know it still needs a process. That's why I say it costs. It costs for us being upfront. So I understand why a lot of our amazing creators out there, yes, you, don't want to be seen on camera, don't want to be seen online, but we still have a story to tell. We still have a calling on our life. Somebody still needs to be seen, right? They need to feel heard. And sometimes our voice, our message, by way of some of the things that have happened to us or that we're going through, we need to then curate it, as Dr. Tati say, in such a way that they can feel our heart and still hear from our minds what it is that we know that people need to see. So if it's costing you your peace, if it's costing you your privacy, and if it's costing you your power, you may want to rethink the things that you decide to put online or even share of someone else's. So again, I hope that this has been helpful with this. Like she said, it's been helping me to even walk through this particular season in my life of dealing with, of grief up close, someone very near and dear and close to me. So I hope this has been helpful, Dr. Tati. I do appreciate, again, the conversation, because we can share too much. We can. But then sometimes it is needed, because for some industries, it's kind of like you need to shake people up. You need to wake people up. And sometimes it can be a good disruption. So I'll say that as a good disruption, not something that's negative. So keep it positive. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then positively go ahead and share your information.
Yes. Again, you can find me at KennedyMediaLLC.com, KennedyMediaLLC.com. And I am Shawana K on IG, all over the network. But yeah, Shawana Kennedy. Yeah, follow me. Make sure you subscribe. I would love that.
This has been amazing. I love when conversations take unexpected twists and turns, and this certainly did. Thank you so much for your transparency with the situation that you're going with your sister that you're going through now, and blessings to you and your family, and your blessings to everybody out there. And hopefully all of this will help you to start to think about how much is too much, both as a viewer/consumer and as a creator, and help you to be more in creating your videos and live streams. Until next time, my friends, cheers.
We always here for you. When you emotionally broke,